1, 2, 3.
Story time of how my best friend was catfished by my dad. So me and my best friend were kind of just like swiping through Tinder for fun. And then she came across this really, really hot dude. So of course, she swiped right and they talked all night long. And he said he had an Android, so he couldn't FaceTime, but his messages were blue, so I thought something was off. She was too blinded to see that something was up in the first place because she was messaging with a really hot guy. So about a week of them just like texting back and forth and I guess getting to know each other, they decided that they were going to meet up. So they both decided that they were going to meet up at an Olive Garden near them. And you see, as her best friend, of course, I'm going to have to go with her. So I got dressed up and I sat about 5 tables away from her. And we got there about 30 minutes earlier than we were supposed to be there. Okay, so my best friend had 3 bowls of fettuccine alfredo before he got there. So when he got there, it wouldn't look like she ate a lot. Then I see my dad walk in, all dressed up and fancy with a bow tie and everything. This story time just gets so much more funnier, so like for a part 2. Part 2 of how my best friend was catfished by my dad. Continuing with the story, I see my dad walk into the restaurant all dressed up. Mind you, my dad's married. To my mother, of course. So I was like, ooh, my dad and my mom are finally going on a date together. And then he looks over to my best friend and walks over to the table. When I tell you my heart dropped, my heart has never sank so deep inside me so fast. He sits down and asks her, is this Mackenzie? When I tell you I busted out laughing so freaking hard I fell out of my chair. And almost everybody in the restaurant turned around and looked at me, and so did my dad. And I walk over to the table and I'm like, what the heck is going on here? My best friend is literally just sitting there in shock, no emotion on her face. Then he looks at us, he looks really confused, his face goes blank, and then he goes, I was just trying to teach y'all girls a lesson. I told my mom and I was just getting a laugh out of it, and then she looked through his phone and said that he was meeting up with a bunch of 14-year-old girls. So comes to find out, my dad is a pedophile. My mom kicked him out, and if you're one of those girls, I really do apologize.
So when I was a sophomore in high school, I had this teacher who would only let the students in her class use the restroom 1 time per semester. Well, one day I raised my hand and I was like, excuse me, I don't remember her name, can I please use the restroom? And she was like, no you can't, because you've already used the restroom in my class this semester. Well, excuse me, you can't dictate my bladder. So I'm like all frustrated, and I started secretly texting my mom because I wasn't allowed to use my phone in class. And I was like, Mom, I'm sitting in class right now, my teacher won't let me use the restroom. And she was like, I'll take care of it for you. And I was like, okay. So like 5 minutes goes by, and all of a sudden my teacher's phone starts ringing, and she walks up to it and answers it, and she's like, hello? Yeah. Okay, thank you. And then she walks up to me like so angry, and she like slams the pass on my desk, and she was like, since you have to go that bad. And I was like, yeah, I really do, thanks. And I got up and left. I didn't even have to go to the bathroom. It was just the principle of it. I just roamed the halls.
This is a story of the time that I caught my neighbor's mom talking smack about me. So I don't know about you guys, but every single Wednesday in my middle school, we would have a bagel sale. And some people's parents would come in to help out. And my neighbor's mom was one of those parents. And I had a best friend at the time whose mom would also work at the bagel sales. But this best friend of mine, her mom never let us hang out with each other because she felt that I was a bad influence on her. When in reality, it was the complete opposite. She was the one that snuck the boys in her house, if you guys remember that story time, where they peed in a flower pot. So basically her mom wouldn't let us hang out. And sometimes my friend would go with her mom in the morning, basically as a ride to school, and to help out with the bagels too. And one day when she went in with her mom, my neighbor's mom also was there too. So my friend starts eavesdropping into their conversation, and my friend's mom brings me up and says how much of a bad kid I am and a bad influence. And my neighbor's mom was like, oh wow, that's my neighbor, like we always suspected something bad about her, our whole entire neighborhood knows this about her, basically making stuff up about me. So then I go home crying, tell my mom. Part 2 of catching my neighbor's mom talking smack about me. So my best friend tells me all these things that my neighbor was saying about me, obviously. And I got really upset, so I went home and I just started to cry. Because for some reason I felt like when I was younger, every one of my friends' parents hated me. And I never really knew why. I was always the type of person to like let my friends do whatever they want and encourage them in doing whatever they want, whether that's breaking the rules or following the rules. So I mean, I guess that could be something, but I'm just being a supportive friend, like... Sorry, I got off topic. So when I told my mom, she was like, okay, come with me, I'm gonna knock on her door. And I was like, heck no, I do not feel like dealing with this. Mom, you deal with it. So she calls her up on the phone, puts her on speakerphone, confronts her about the situation, and this lady starts going on about how she loves me like I'm her own child, saying that I was never a bad influence on her daughter, and that she actually wanted me to hang out with her daughter more. Like, that's not what she was saying at bagel sale.
This boy lied about his age just to date me. Story time. So back when my cute self was a senior in high school, there was this new girl that came to our school. Long story short, me and her ended up becoming super close. I went to her house, spent the night. Her family loved me. I mean, why wouldn't they? Anyways, she had a brother. We're gonna call him Binky. Me and Binky got pretty close. Now I want you guys to keep in mind, Binky didn't go to my school because their parents were divorced. So the sister who I was friends with lived with her mom, and Binky lived with his dad who lived in another city. But sometimes Binky would go to his mom's house, which is how I met him. Now that we got that out of the way, as me and Binky were getting closer, one day he asked me, "Hey, how old are you?" And I was like, "Oh, I just turned 17. How about you?" He told me, "Oh, I'm 17 too, but my 18th birthday is coming up." After a while, me and him eventually started dating. Then one day, I ran into his cousin who happened to go to my school. The rest of this story is crazy. This boy lied about his age just to date me. Story time. So I ran into his cousin who just so happened to go to the same school as me. What a small world. Anyways, we start having a conversation. And she asked me, "Oh my God, are you dating Binky?" And I was like, "Oh, how do you know that?" Because at the time, I didn't know that she was his cousin. And he didn't go to the same school as me. So I didn't know how she would have known that. And then she tells me, "Oh, that's my cousin." As we're talking, she says, "Oh, are you going to go to his birthday party?" And I'm like, no, he actually didn't tell me he was having a birthday party. Weird. And she's like, "Yeah, that's really weird because it's like coming up next week." And I'm just sitting here like, well, maybe he'll tell me. He probably just had a lot on his mind. And then she says, "I can't believe he's going to be 16 already. Time flies. We're going to throw him a sweet 16 party." After she says that, I just look at her like, you mean 18, right? Like, you said 16. I think you meant 18. Sorry, there has to be a part 3. This boy lied about his age just to date me. Story time. Part 3. So his cousin starts talking about I can't believe he's going to be 16. And I look at her thinking I'm tripping. Like, you said 18, right? Like, you didn't mean 16, you meant 18. And then she's like, "No, I meant 16. So that's when I found out he's actually 16, or about to be 16. So I was 17 dating a 15-year-old. And I know a lot of you were like, "Oh my God, it's not really that much of an age gap." Listen, the fact that he lied about it is bad enough for me. Secondly, I would have been 18 and he still would have been 16, turning 17. But that's a little weird for me and I didn't want to catch a case. That's why I wasn't looking for a younger boy. After I find out this new information, of course I tell my best friends. And they start hyping me up. "Break up with him!" Which is what I did. I sent him this huge paragraph. I kind of went off. Of course, he replied to my paragraph saying, "I'm sorry, I don't want to lose you, blah, blah, blah." I basically told him, "Sorry, I don't want to be with liar." I blocked him and haven't seen him.
This is why it's better to have one friend that you hang out with regularly instead of having a big group of friends. And trust me, you're going to want to listen to this story time. So when I was a sophomore in high school, I was kind of going through an identity crisis, and low-key still am. I went to a predominantly white school for the majority of my life. So let's just say I was extremely whitewashed. It was one of those times in my life where if a white person said the N-word around me, I would just laugh. Not because I didn't know it was wrong, but because I wanted to be accepted and I wanted to be like everybody else, and I seeked validation. Sophomore year was really when I started to become who I am today. I wanted to learn way more about my culture and my background. So I started becoming friends with people from other schools that are more diverse. Eventually, I met this group of girls. And I thought these girls were going to be the sweetest girls I would ever meet. Now, this friend group was serving flavor. I'm talking diverse to the T. One night, we decided that we were going to spend the night at one of the girls' houses. Let's call this girl Sally. I kept getting lost on the way to Sally's house, and I thought it was because I didn't know the area that well. Keep in mind, that's what I thought was the reason. I get there and we watch like 4 or 5 movies before I end up falling asleep. And when I wake up, I was in a room full of grown-ass men staring at me. Storytime part 2 of why it's better to have one loyal friend instead of a big group of friends. I forgot to mention in part 1 that when I arrived, the men were already there. Mind you, we were in sophomore year. These men looked like they were in college. So I was already a little thrown off, but I trusted it because I was with my friend. When I wake up, these men are like staring at me. But they try to look away really fast, but I could tell that they were staring at me. I start thinking the worst of the worst. I try to think of any possible way that I could get out of there, whether it was physically or mentally. So I pretend to fall asleep just to escape the reality of it. But then one of the men at the bottom of the bed starts rubbing my feet. I immediately kick my leg so I can get his hands off. Now I'm thinking he's gonna be mad and I'm gonna get fucking attacked. So I try to make small talk to loosen the tension. So I look at the guys and I'm like, "Hey, do you know where the girls went?" One of them looks at me and says, "Oh, they went home." So I'm like, I thought this was Sally's house. And they say nothing. So at this point, I think I'm being set up. I try my best to not make it seem like I'm suspicious of them. I casually act like I need to pee. Walk into the bathroom and I see a window. Automatically something clicks in my mind, get the fuck out of there. Making part 3 right now. Part 3 of why you should have one loyal friend instead of hanging out with a big group of friends. So I go into the bathroom and there's a window. I'm thinking to myself, I would be so dumb. I would be so extremely incredibly stupid to go back into that room full of grown ass men that I've never met before, instead of making my escape through that window right here, right now. So I trusted my gut and I got the fuck out of there. Mind you, I'm in my PJs right now. No shoes, no socks. I'm making my great escape. Call me Pablo Escobar. While I was doing all of it, I was in disbelief. Like, I cannot believe that I'm escaping, like, right now. Like, this is actually insane. Like, I did what I believed was right at the moment. And honestly, that decision might be the reason why I'm alive right now. So I make a run for it. I immediately run to the front of the neighborhood. I hide behind some trees and then I call my sister. I call my sister instead of my parents because my mom was the one who drove me there. And if she knew that something bad happened, she wouldn't have let me go out again. I'm frantically explaining everything on the phone to my sister. She literally speeds to come get me. When she gets there, I immediately hop in her car and we get the fuck out of there. On our way home, I get a text from Sally. Last part is part 4. I'm making that right now. Part 4 of why you should have one loyal friend instead of having a big group of friends. So I'm on my way home and I get a text from Sally. Hey girl, where are you? We went to the gas station to get some milkshakes. You could have came with, but you were already asleep. I didn't even respond. I just blocked all of them because I know damn well that they were not getting milkshakes. Because 1, why didn't they wake me up to get milkshakes? Because I wasn't the first person to fall asleep. I'd never fall asleep first at somebody's house with a big group of people. I saw somebody else who looked like they were sleeping, so I thought that I was going to fall asleep too. 2, why were all those grown ass men there? Nobody told me that they were going to be there. Like I said, we were sophomores. These men were in college. Maybe even graduated from college. They were grown. 3, why would she lie about it being her house? 4, why did the boy say she went home? I remember when I said I kept getting lost because I didn't know the area. Once I went back to look through the messages that I had with those girls to see if there was anything fishy going on, I noticed that they were all sending me different addresses. Either one number would be off or a letter would be off. They definitely were planning something because they were trying to get me there late. I haven't seen or talked to those girls since then.
Missing someone.